Welcome to ECO Ask Why, a podcast that dives into industrial manufacturing topics and spotlights the heroes that keep America running. I'm your host, Chris Granger, and on this podcast, we do not cover the latest features and benefits on products that come to market. Instead, we focus on advice and insight from the top minds of industry because people and ideas will be how America remains number one in manufacturing in the world. Welcome to ECO Ask Why. I'm your host, Chris Granger. Looking forward to spending some time with you today. And we're going to continue our look into industrial control panels. And right now, what we're going to focus on is how you can protect the connected operations that we find in our industrial facilities these days, okay? Now, there's a simple way to understand the risk, and we're going to try to break this down and help you, just encourage you as you grow in your understanding of industrial control panels. And if you start thinking about industrial cybersecurity, one way that I found useful is start thinking about the security system of your modern home. And sometimes they're called modern smart homes, right? And before that, go back to your old-fashioned house, like when you grew up. Security there meant just locking the front door. Maybe that was it. Like the house wasn't connected, right? You didn't have the threats that we have these days. It seems like where you have these big physical, more obvious threats. But in a smart home now, you have locks, you have lights, you have cameras, thermostats, alarms. Everything's connected. Right, it's all connected through the internet, and security becomes a layered concern that we need to be understanding, right? And it's continuous, right? Secure your house is secure when you're there and when you're not there. There's lights, there's cameras, there's all sorts of things happening. Physical lock, we recognize is just no longer enough, right? We want more, and in that case, you need firewalls, you need credentials, you need to have the right network and the segmentation set up, and that constant monitoring to make sure that the systems designed to improve convenience don't just go down, and next thing you know, you got an open door for intruders, right? We don't want that. So in modern manufacturing, it's the same way. It's the exact same way. Factories have become more connected, and industrial control panels now function like this smart home hub within a plant, okay? And we need to think through the point where physical operations right now is meeting digital access, right? This has come together. And just like that smart home, if you don't have that hub intentionally secure, that connectivity can be exposed. And we don't want that, right? So again, electrical equipment company, we're all about helping you in these areas. So if you have some applications that you would like for us to dig into, we have the resources, we have the experts that can come do that diagnosis and help you understand at least what your risk points are, okay? So connect with us. That's the big thing. Connect with us and let us have a conversation. Because you need to know when connectivity becomes an operational risk. Because manufacturing, again, in the middle of a digital transformation, so many things are happening. Industrial control panels are increasingly housing Ethernet switches, routers, firewalls. You got these modems. You have remote access gateways that connect to PLCs and HMIs and drives and safety systems, all this stuff, right? And this is good, but it also enables, real-time productivity, remote diagnostics, predictive maintenance, data-driven optimization. And here's the deal. It also removes so much of the old safety net of isolation, because think about how old the OT systems, they used to be really built and designed around their security through obscurity, right? Systems weren't connected, right? They weren't reachable. So if that system went down, it just affected that part of the plant, right? Not anymore, right? No longer anymore. Everything is connected. Control networks are accessible, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, and you have this IT infrastructure you got to think about. And the result is cybersecurity failures now directly translate into safety incidents or the downtime and the scrap or lost revenue. It's a big deal. So we need to take some steps to design the secure panels from the start. This is where we're going to try to help you with, okay? And as we start thinking about this, what are the real risks inside these connected control panels? Just need to know what some of those real risks are. And it's because this is not just some theory, okay? This is operational. This is functional to your plant. One of the first big risks is unauthorized access. because control panels often provide direct pathways to critical assets. Just think about what these control panels are touching. Again, the PLC, the HMI, your motion systems, your safety systems. And if you don't have proper segmentation or being authenticated, or maybe you don't even have that physical protection in place, access can be gained by external hackers or internal users operating outside of their role. Okay, so look, this isn't just an IT breach, guys. Don't think about it that way. It's someone standing at the controls, right? You have to be careful. Now, you also have data integrity and process control. So manufacturing decisions depend on trusted data. So if a sensor values or set points of control, the logic are altered, even at the slightest, the system may operate, but performance can go down. And that bad data, when you make those changes, right, that bad data can result in poor quality. Maybe your OEE goes down. Maybe you're starting to wear your equipment more and more, or you're creating some unsafe operating conditions. So in OT, that integrity matters more than confidentiality because the physical outcomes depend on it, right? Now, system disruption and physical consequences are also areas of concern because unlike traditional IT system, OT cyber incidents don't just disrupt screens and files. They stop lines, right? Equipment stops moving and it can damage equipment and it can create all sorts of safety hazard. So a compromised panel can shut down production for sure, but it could cause uncontrolled behavior in your machinery. And downtime isn't always the worst case scenario. Loss of control is. Like if you lose control of equipment, that is a big deal. And this is, again, why I'm not trying to paint like a doomsday picture here, but we're trying to help you see that industrial control panels are the front line. They are no longer can be viewed as passive enclosures. They are architectural decision points. Think about that. Architectural decision points. What gets installed in the panel and how it's designed determines so much. It determines about your network segmentation. It determines about your physical access limitations. It determines your upgrade and patching feasibility. It determines what your long-term cybersecurity posture is going to be. So again, effective OT security starts with that intentional panel design, right? We're not just adding on fixes. We're not just patching stuff. And so much of that comes down to layered, right? There's a layered security by design. Just like your smartphone separates guest Wi-Fi. Think about that. Your guest Wi-Fi from like your security cameras. Industrial systems must segment control networks from enterprise and external access paths, right? So think about this is including your industrial firewalls, your managed switches. This includes secured remote access methods. So you're being very defined on what that looks like. This is setting up encrypted communications where it makes sense, and then having physical separation of critical systems, like physically having that separation there. Okay, so all things to think about. You want to be very clear as well on defined authority and oversight. So as systems become more autonomous, clear boundaries are essential, and control architecture must really be on what decisions automation can make versus when does human intervention need to come in, and what does an override look like, and if an override happens, how is it logged and how is it audited? Okay, so all these things start running together because security is as much about the governance as much as it is about the technology. You have to have the processes in place. So as we think about this, the life cycle support, and this is not just a one-time deal. This is not, when you think cybersecurity, it isn't a commissioning activity. It's ongoing life cycle responsibilities. Panels, these days have to be designed with the ability for updates and patching. They need to have tons of documentation and traceability to understand what goes who and where and why. It needs to have audits and standard compliance. And then ultimately thinking forward about future expansion without creating any new exposure. Like if you want to add this equipment in the future, that's great. Is that going to be an access point for cybersecurity threat? These are what we need to start thinking about. And the human factor is such a big deal because most secure systems fail if people can't work with them. Right? We're going to find a way to bypass it, right? So operators and maintenance teams interact with this equipment every day. So if security controls are unclear, or maybe it causes too much friction, or they're poorly explained, guess what? They will try to find a way around it. And that's why OT security has to be tied to training as well, to make sure that the people understand the workflows, to make sure they understand their access points and what they have access to and what they don't have access to, and ultimately has the safe operation design under pressure. So a secure system has to be one that people understand first and foremost and trust. Because if they don't understand it, and they don't trust it, they're going to do all they can to circumvent it. And that's when things happen. That is where we have to be super careful. So again, it's all about building secure, resilient systems, because connectivity is not the enemy here. Poorly governed connectivity is. That's a big deal. And manufacturers out there, if you're treating cybersecurity as a core design principle, not something that's like as an afterthought, and then you're like, oh yeah, we need to do this. But if you think of it as a core principle, you're better positioning yourself, okay? Because you're going to be able to scale much better. You're going to be able to adopt new solutions so much better. And you're going to be able to protect uptime and safety, which is ultimately what we're all about. And we're partnering, electrical equipment company, we're partnering with manufacturers right now to design and support secure, resilient industrial control solutions. Think about from enclosure design to component selection to network architecture to modernization. This is what we do. This is how we step in and serve at a significantly high level. So look, great way to connect with us. Go to ecoonline.com. We have opportunities for our labs. So we have labs all throughout our geography. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're within our service area, there is a lab close to you, within, I would say, reasonable driving distance. Get connected with us. Come in. Let's bring you in. Heck, we'll buy you a sandwich. We'll sit down. We'll have a conversation, and let's talk technology. Let's talk and see your project. Let's talk and see what your applications are. And then in our lab environment, do some testing, throw some things against the wall, see what sticks, right? You have a better feel for this technology, particularly for your industrial control panels, so that when you make the decision to implement it in your plant, you're not just coming off a YouTube video. You have real world experience. And that's what we're trying to provide you at Electrical Equipment Company, is the opportunity to get those reps before you actually bring it into the facility. And that's a big deal. And that is why we made the investment in these labs. And we highly encourage you to check them out and come see us. In fact, in this podcast, there is a link to, if you're in Virginia or if you're in the Carolinas, wherever you find yourself, there's a link where you can schedule time directly to come in, visit our labs, and have these conversations, because that's where the rubber meets the road. And I'll tell you, our team of experts, they are absolutely incredible. They're smart. They're brilliant. They're amazing. They're ready to serve. They're ready to help. So go check that out in the show notes, okay? So that is it on cybersecurity. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We're just trying to do these episodes just to give you some insights, some things to think about. Hopefully you're being encouraged by it. If you want to connect with us, again, ecoonline.com, or we're on LinkedIn. If you search for Electrical Equipment Company on LinkedIn, that's a great way to connect with us there. We have a lot of followers there. We try to put out information on a regular basis on our LinkedIn profile. And other than that, we'd love to see you at one of our branches. So if you're in our service area, connect with us, come in. Again, we'll love to buy you a sandwich and sit down and just talk about what's going on in your industrial facility and see how we can serve and hopefully help you through your modernization goals. All right. So have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. And we just enjoy doing this and sharing this information. Hopefully you're finding value in it, and share it with others. Give us a rating review if you don't mind. That'd be great. And at the end of the day, just remember to keep asking why. Thank you for listening to ECO Ask Why. This show is supported ad-free by Electrical Equipment Company. ECO is redefining the expectations of an electrical distributor by placing people and ideas before products. Please subscribe and share with your colleagues and friends. Also, leave comments, feedback, and any new topics that you would like to hear. To learn more or to share your insights, visit ecosky.com. That's EECOASKSWHY.com.